Cambridge's way so far. Is this first race, the women's reserve race, a really good opportunity for Oxford to turn around and start getting some wins on the score?
Yeah, I really think so. After what was a really tight spare pairs race, Oxford losing by half a length, I really think this is first opportunity where Oxford can really start to punch back against the sort of surmounting wins by Cambridge at the moment. So fingers crossed.
We shall see. So we're a few minutes away from the running of the women's reserve race between Osiris and Blondie. Osiris, of course, representing Oxford University, Blondie, the crew from Cambridge University. And at the moment it is Blondie leading the overall series, 27 races to 20, and they have been the holders of the reserve races since 2016. So, Eleanor, we're starting to see a real period of lightweight dominance in this reserve race and the blue boat race for the women as well. What's the secret at the moment? What's in the water at Ely? What's working so well for Cambridge?
I think just every year coming back, athletes know what it's like to win, and there's sort of a standard there that we win it this year, we won it last year. So yeah, it's just nice when you enter the season at the start of September and the vibes are on eyes on the trophy.
Yeah, you do sort of off the back of a winning season, you always go into the next season buoyed with a lot more confidence, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, I've only won last year, and so haven't gone into a season with Oxford, but rowing at Leander with the confidence that they've had from winning the Ladies' Plate last year, like sort of you could really feel it in the club. There was a sense of sort of just sort of optimism and like almost urgency of like, right, we're going to win this again. So I can imagine it's very similar going back into it.
Certainly. So we can see on screen that we are now underway with the running of the 48th Osiris Blondie race. And we can see there on screen it's been a fantastic start from both those two crews at the moment. And they're getting so close off the start, already coming together. Eleanor, that's not the start that these crews would have wanted. We're clashing already. It's a disaster for some of these crews. What's going through their minds right now?
Yeah, blade clashes are always hard. You want to keep your eyes on the boat. You know, that's the first few minutes of the race. You really want to focus on your own crew, but equally you've got the other crew sort of at your side. You can't really ignore them. But yeah, it looks like they've just sort of steered out of the mess and are having a go at clear start.
Yeah, that was a very messy start from both crews. I haven't seen clashing like that straight off the start. I don't think, well, ever. But yeah, now the crew sort of, they've sort of moved apart and now heading into the sort of more challenging water now. So we'll see how both crews fare.
Yeah. To run you through some of the action that we had beforehand, we of course had the coin toss. And in this race, Osiris, they won the toss. They chose the Middlesex station. And so far, Josh, they're making the most of that. They've got themselves out to a slight advantage early on. What did you make of that pick of the Middlesex station?
I think when you win the toss and choose Middlesex, it's always an odd decision. If I remember correctly, I think the Cambridge Blue Boat last year did it as well. But there were rumours that they were potentially going to cut the Middlesex bend because of the dredging. So apparently the racing line had been changed because of that. But normally, if you choose Middlesex having won the toss, it's perhaps a sign of a crew that doesn't back themselves to have to sort of off the start and sort of to get into that pace, to get themselves to that big advantage of the Surrey Bend. They're looking for that early advantage that first Middlesex Bend gives them. Yeah,
so as these two crews, Osiris and Blondie, come underneath the shadows of Craven Cottage, home of Fulham Football Club, it is the Cambridge crew, that Blondie crew, starting to etch out. They've drawn level with the Osiris crew and just starting to creep their way through the original lead that Osiris had. And that Blondie crew, Gemma King there in the bows, Nikki Watchchania at 2, Yaneska de Jonge in 3, Caris Earl at 4, Claire Hole at 5, Hannah Prince at 6, Iris Powell at 7. Stroking it is Molly Foxall, and they're coxed by Kate Crowley. And their Oxford opposition today, Sophie Camhy at bow, Kate Friesen at 2. 3 and 4 are the Nielsen Scott sisters, Helen and Maria at 3 and 4 respectively. Phoebe Mountain goes at 5, Lily Frischman 6, Barbara Hatchlova at 7. Juliet Russell is stroking it, and they are coxed by Anna Betteridge. And I think, Eleanor, what's quite interesting about this race is that both of these coxes are experiencing the boat race for the very first time, and that's got to be a huge amount of nerves for these young coxes, and certainly that clash off the start won't have helped.
Definitely. I mean, both of them will have had experience in the fixtures in the run-up to the boat race, but I think it's always different on race day. You know, you reach another level, and obviously both trying to be very aggressive here to, you know, get the best stream on the best line for their crew.
Yeah, we can see on screen there conditions. They're bumpy, they're blustery. It's conditions that you don't particularly want to be out in. And that Oxford crew there, they're quite they're quite an inexperienced crew. So many of these athletes learn to row at their colleges, at Oxford University, and these conditions, Josh, they're really testing these athletes.
Yeah, so all of the Osiris crew are new to the women's boat club this year, and yeah, so only 3 of them learned to row before they came to Oxford. So it's sort of quite a young, quite an inexperienced crew, and well, they would have experienced conditions like this during the fixtures, but on race day, this is sort of a real challenging thing to have to deal with. It's pretty much sort of a case of who can sort of keep control of their blade, who can row in the pattern the best and deal with the conditions the best. And you can see on screen that sort of blades are hitting the water. The wind is throwing the spoons up at the catch. So it's sort of very, very hard conditions to row.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Caroline Litton, the umpire for today's reserve race, the 48th running of the women's reserve race, she's getting a lot of action early on with that flag. We've of course had that action off the start, the 2 crews coming together, but at the moment Cambridge, that advantage that they're stretching out over their opponents from Oxford University, it's growing, but Eleanor, it's not quite enough for them to move out in front of Osiris and take exactly the line that they want. No,
interesting that you say that, because Blondie just came over into the Osiris line of the course, and yeah, that's a dangerous move to make so early on with your lead so small. But I think they're continuing to move away right now, and it's just about to head into the Surrey bend.
Well, I think the normal sort of allowance for letting a crew come across is sort of it's a length of clear water and moving away.
That is correct. Yeah.
And certainly in the fixtures, that definitely wasn't adhered to by the umpires. in my first year at Oxford, I think Goldie came across with literally a couple of feet of clear water, and so our cock Stephen Bramier goes, right boys, we're going for the bump. This is it. We're going to get them disqualified. And so under Hammersmith, we put in a massive push to sort of, because we were on Surrey, they had taken our line. Can get the bump on a crew, you don't normally get torpids and summer 8s, sort of the bumps racing we do at Oxford on the tideway, but on occasion it does happen.
Yeah, so you're talking about Hammersmith Bridge. In a few minutes' time, it's going to come into shot. The big Hammersmith Bridge will start looming in the distance, and it will be, at the moment, that crew from Cambridge University, this Blondie crew that has been on a streak of dominance since 2016, continuing to etch out over the Osiris crew. And a few moments ago, we were talking about they were still getting warned by the umpire. They're still getting told by Caroline Litton that they can't clip in front. But now they're in a position. They've got a couple of the women's reserve race. And Eleanor, Osiris had that advantage early on. They had that advantage. They clearly chose the Middlesex bend because they wanted to go out and push Cambridge early on. They did that, but are they perhaps starting to punish themselves now because they went out so fast? And obviously this second bend, the Hammersmith bend, is of course in Cambridge's favour.
Yeah, it is. And as Cambridge is in front of them right now, they're going to send some dirty puddles down. So I mean, horrendous conditions in the first place, but now with that extra wash, hat off to Osiris for that really clean rowing for them.
Yeah, and it'll be a fantastic position for Molly Foxall to look back. The stroke of the Blondie crew, the 20-year-old at Pembroke College, learned to row here in the United Kingdom, stroking Blondie this year. Cox in her first boat racing experience dominate the position. And as we come underneath Hammersmith Bridge, Josh, what a position for this Cambridge crew to be in so early on in the race.
Yeah, they look like they're in control, don't they? They look as though they're sort of starting to really ease away they're moving in time together, they're rowing nicely, dealing with the conditions, and Molly Foxwell sitting in the stroke seat will have a great view of the Osiris crew now, sort of having sitting there and being able to look back on a crew when you're doing sort of side by side racing. It gives you a lot of confidence because you can just feel the sort of the control that it gives you.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be such an awesome feeling, just roaring through them as they come underneath Hammersmith Bridge, leading the boat race. And of course, the next big marker for them, these two crews, will be St Paul's School, roughly halfway through this grueling tideway course. And Eleanor, what we've seen over the past couple of minutes is the course has flattened out. We're starting to get a bit of shelter from this wind, and certainly that Oxford crew that were struggling early on in this race, they'll really benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Oxford is pretty strong this year, so if they can take advantage of that clean water, then they might just edge back onto the Cambridge boat. But I have no doubt that Cambridge can master these conditions as well.
Well, yeah, it looks like as though they've almost swapped stations. I mean, it's slightly difficult to tell, but from what I could just about see, it looked as though the crews are now on the opposite stations to what they started on. So, well,
who do you think has got the better course here?
That's a good one.
I suppose
being in the middle is probably being in the middle at this point is probably slightly disadvantageous. There's sort of, you want the inside of the bend because even though you're slightly out of the stream, you are then going that bit slightly shorter.
Yeah.
Yes, Cambridge University, as we come past St Paul's School, halfway through this race, comfortably out in front of their opponents, Osiris from Oxford University, and looking set to continue what has been an epic run of wins from 2016. What's so good about the boat race? We go through periods of dominance, switching between light blue, between dark blue, when each of the respective universities have a chance to build their own dynasty over a number of years. And as you go back through the years, you just see those awesome periods of dominance. And at the moment, Cambridge are really in one of those periods at the moment, particularly with this reserve crew race. They've got Oxford's number at the moment and are just pushing away from them time and time again. And I suppose it leaves big questions for the likes of James Powell and Andy Nelder at Oxford University, Josh, as to what they need to do to close the gap, because they went out the blocks hard. They did what you have to do early on in a race against a Cambridge crew of such high calibre. You've got to go out and race them early on. But it's just this mid-race pace, this mid-race rhythm that Cambridge have over Oxford that is just so clinical. And where Oxford struggled in the rougher conditions in the first third of the race, Cambridge just continued to seem to skip over the top of the water.
Yeah, I think when you're doing side-by-side racing, especially over such a long distance, as you said, you've got to attack the start. You've got to take it to the other crew, because if you don't go off hard enough on the start, you'll get dropped, and you give yourself such a hard job to come back. But I think with Cambridge, the women's blue boat with Blondie, they've built up such sort of momentum over the past couple of years. Is it sort of when people want to come and do the boat race, they see which university is winning and they go, well, I want to win the boat race. That's my goal. So they're gonna go to the club that's got the most momentum at that time. And so I think that really helps in terms of sort of building the club culture, building sort of really strong crews to put out against Oxford.
And this Cambridge crew is just packed full of talent. Gemma King sitting in the bow seat of this crew. She sat at 3 in the winning Blondie crew last year, and she has previously raced and won the lightweight race back in 2019 and 2022. In that 2022 race last year, she went up against Phoebe Mountain, the two of them making the jump up from the lightweights into the heavyweights. And Phoebe Mountain in that Oxford crew that came up short against Cambridge, and it looks like they will be doing the same again today. But it's just a number of athletes in this Cambridge crew that are packed full of talent as well. Claire Hall sat at 5 this year, part of the Blondie crew last year, that won as well last year. And when you've got athletes like that, Eleanor, that are just so used to winning, it just creates this unbreakable culture within a club.
Yeah, for sure. So Gemma and Claire, both Blondie returners Claire from last year. Gemma was selected for the Blondie crew in 2021, and also 2020, although race was cancelled. She's got quite an interesting history, moving from lightweight to Blondie, and I think she has some years left at Cambridge, so she might trial again and make the step, take the step to reach the blue belt.
So as you can see now, as the Isis Goldie race gets set to start in the next couple of minutes or so, the 58th running of that race, and we'll roll with this split screen so we can bring you both races at the start of the men's race and at the start of the women's race. And Josh, just looking ahead to this Isis Goldie race, you were saying just before we came on air, you reckon this will be one of the closest races, men's reserve races, that we've had for a while?
You can quote me on. Well, I will get quoted on this, but I think so. Yeah, I think both crews are looking really good. They've had strong results in fixtures. They've had strong results in fixtures, but equally they've also had some less good results in fixtures. But those when you have those results where you turn up and you get beaten badly, those are the ones that make you go, right, okay, we really need to turn this around, and that can really that can change the course of your whole campaign with the boat races. I really think that these crews will go toe to toe, sort of down the entire course, or at least I hope so.
Yeah, certainly. Apologies about the technical error that we're just having on screen at the moment. We will pick up those pictures as soon as we can, but at the moment when we left it, it was Cambridge University, the Blondie crew out in front, comfortably leading their opponents from Osiris, representing Oxford University in that 48th running of the women's reserve race. And we are still just moments away from the Isis Goldie race, the men's reserve race, getting underway. And when we last left them, Josh, they are being lined up by umpire Claire Harvey, who previously represented Cambridge University, assisted by Oxford University's Judith Packer. And I think by the roar that we can hear just outside of our commentary position in Putney, it sounds like that race is starting to get underway. What's that like, Josh, off the start? Because obviously you were part of this Isis crew last year.
It's like nothing else. Like, you look to your left, you're on the stake boat, and you look to your left, there's just a wall of people. You look to your right, there's more crowds of people. You look to Putney Bridge and it's covered in people. And as soon as the umpire's red flag goes down and the attention go comes, just this wall of noise hits you. It's so loud, and then you've got the crew. You can hear the crew next to you. You can hear your own cocks. There's just so much going on at the start. There's a really big adrenaline rush.
And Eleanor, are you just able to talk us through some of these Isis Goldie crews and some of these athletes that we've got taking part in today's men's reserve race?
Yeah, Fergus. I'm actually really excited to see this race if the feed is back on soon. We've got quite a few returners in both boats. Ollie Boyne coxing Goldie for the third time in a row, also men's president of Cambridge this year, and he's facing off Louis, who has also coxed Isis last year, and both of them have had some victories in their back, so both of them wanted to take the trophy again. What do you think?
Both of them facing off again on the tideway. Both of them not wanting to lose. You mentioned that Ollie was the CUBC president.
Yeah.
How do you feel he sort of will have dealt not getting the blue boat seat for this year in his year as president?
I think it's always hard because you are the image of your club, but you don't get the full sort of coverage because you're not in the blue boat. And I think Marty made the same experience last year. I guess.
Yeah,
You've
no.
been in
Marty last year was phenomenal. The way he dealt with it, was really impressive. He was sad for a little bit, but he turned it around after about a week and went, right, okay, no, we're going to win both races.
Yeah,
and this is what we're going to do. And he led such a strong club culture.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter which boat he was in.
Yeah. No, from what I know from Ollie, I mean, I've rowed with him for the past 2 seasons. I haven't seen him this year. I haven't been part of the squad this year, but yeah, he's a really cool guy. He's great at leading, and I have no doubt that he's doing his best from the Goldie seat. But yeah, I think his eyes right now are on the Goldie win, and yeah, I'm with him.
And Josh, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago some of those fixture results and how they can have a big impact on these crews. Can you just talk us through some of those fixture results that these reserve races have had, or these reserve crews have had?
So I think the real big one for Isis was Racing Brooks, where they turned up and Brooks they turned up and Brooks turned up a much more sort of uniform outfit and sort of sent Isis packing. We've got the feedback. This is good.
Wow, and looks like Goldie has already taken the lead. Oh no, sorry, my eyes were on the Blondie race.
Yes, apologies for the technical errors that we have had, but we are able to bring you both races back on screen. And a reminder, in the bottom right hand side of your screen, it is the Osiris Blondie Women's Reserve race, and up in the corner, the top left corner, it is the Isis Goldie race. And umpire Claire Harvey of that one is already being tested by this Goldie crew. These crews are so close together at the moment, but at the moment it is that Goldie crew, that crew representing Cambridge University, just have an edge, but they're certainly not in a position to cut across at all.
I think, yeah, Goldie on Middlesex there, they've just got the early advantage, and they made the most of it. Looks like Isis is maybe edging back on them a little. But yeah, I just love seeing Goldie in gold. I think it looks fantastic.
I disagree. I think it looks awful. But no, I think if Isis can stay in touch right up until we get to the Harrods Depository, just will give them a real chance of staying in the race, because that Surrey Bend, there's that sort of 10 minutes throughout the middle of the race where it's your advantage and you know that you've got the advantage. And so if you're with a crew and you're sort of you've got the inside of the bend, you know that you can just keep moving and keep moving and keep moving, and if they're staying with you, they've got to spend a lot of energy to stay with you around the outside of that bend.
That's true, but the only feeling better than being on the inside is being on the outside and taking over. So, wow, it's a tight race up until now. It's really exciting. That's always what you want to see in a boat race. Those are the best races.
Yes, we will come back to that race between Isis and Goldie, but at the moment, in the bottom right hand side of your screen, it is Cambridge University, the Blondie crew, who are out in front. They have dominated this race right from the outset. We had that controversial clashing at the beginning between the two crews, but for another year it will be Blondie in the women's reserve races who are victorious over their opponents from Oxford University. For Osiris, it's back to the drawing board. It is back to Oxford University to try and come up with a solution as to how they're going to conquer Cambridge. But for now, the Thames is painted light blue, as it has been through the lightweight races, through the veteran races. But we can see on screen there, Oxford University, their cox Anna Betteridge has raised their hand in protest. And Josh, presumably this is going to be because of that clashing at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, no, it was a very messy start, and when that sort of thing happens right off the start, it can potentially really affect how a crew gets into their rhythm. And if the crew can't, if a crew, as a result of that crash, is not able to get into that sort of chunky race rhythm that's sort of efficient and sustainable, then they're out the race from the start.
Certainly. And Ella, have they got any right to protest? Do you think it's going to be upheld?
I think any losing cox will protest at every race. You know, it's the last shot you have at getting a rerun or getting a disqualification for the other crew, and you'll always take it.